Hello, welcome. My name is Sarah, and I'm a territory manager for OzTREKK. I'm really excited to be chatting to you today all about our veterinary programs in Australia. And I hope by the end of this presentation, you're also really excited to start this whole process. By the end, you should have a very good understanding about OzTREKK, who we are, what we do, and how this whole process works, about why you might want to consider Australia as a study destination for your veterinary medicine degree. I will also, of course, chat about all of our programs, the degree options that you have, admission requirements, a little bit about practicing in Canada and how that process works, and I'll also talk a little bit about financing your studies. So OzTREKK is an official representative of actually 15 different universities. We have 14 in Australia, 1 in New Zealand, and OzTREKK essentially facilitates the entire application process for students. So, and all of our services that I'm going to be chatting to you today about are completely free for students. So it costs nothing to apply through OzTREKK. Most of our universities waive the application fee as well. And our role is to really help you from the very beginning of the process, from your first questions, all the way to when you are in Australia. We have specific student advisors that will be helping you along the way and really holding your hand throughout the entire journey. And what you can expect during this whole process is initially helping you determine if you're eligible to apply and where you're going to be most competitive to apply. So it starts with emailing our student advisors, giving our student advisors a call, checking out our website, watching a presentation like this, attending one of our events, and getting as much information as you possibly can about this whole process and how this all works and what you think might be the best fit for you. And of course, our student advisors will, like I said, hold your hand throughout that whole process and really work with you. We'll take a look at all the factors that go into making a decision and help you make sure that you're making the right one. And then once you have narrowed down all of your options, you're ready to apply online. Most of our universities are, most of our students are applying to more than one program as well, which is totally okay. And we help you along the way in terms of making sure that your documents are in, what documents you have still outstanding, the deadlines that are coming up, all of those different things that you're going to be needing to know, we will keep you up to date with. And through this process, we really are a student-first organization. So our student advisors are going to be advocating on your behalf and making sure that you're comfortable throughout the whole process. And one of the best things is our whole pre-departure phase. So not only are we helping you through the application process and making your way to Australia, that also includes actually starting your life in Australia. So how are you going to get a visa? Where are you going to live? How do you open a bank account in Australia? How do you get a cell phone in Australia? All of those things to make sure that you are 100% ready to start your program in Australia. And that also includes, we do have meet and greets where students get to join other students at some of our networking events. You can also meet people that are going to the same program as you, same university as you, and kind of creating that community before you even head over. And the application process looks a little bit something like this. So as I mentioned, connecting with OzTREKK, getting all of your questions answered and really narrowing down the whole process and the options that you do have. Once you've found that program that fits, you're going to apply online through OzTREKK, and our admissions officers will, like I said, hold your hand throughout the entire process. Once you're ready, they will, compile your application for you, submit it on your behalf, walk you through accepting an offer, and then that whole pre-departure phase that I mentioned, making sure that you're ready to start your journey in Australia. Now, this whole process looks a little bit different. The application timeline is a little bit different than North America. So as most of our programs start in September after our summer holidays, universities in Australia also start after their summer holidays, but their summer is our winter. So most of the programs, the beginning of the school year in Australia is around February. And most of our students are in contact with our student advisors about a year in advance of when they actually start the program. So you'll get to know our student advisors really well. Our student advisors will get to know you very well throughout this whole process. And generally speaking, that process starts about a year in advance of when you actually want to start studying. So sending your applications, sending your documents to Australia, generally between December and May. And then throughout the early spring, through the summer, you're finalizing those applications, making sure that all of your transcripts are in, personal statements, depending on which program you're applying to. And then in the fall, offers are usually issued. And then our whole pre-departure process happens. Students are usually getting ready to fly over sometime in the new year. So a few reasons why you might want to consider studying in Australia as for your veterinary medicine degree. We do work with some world-renowned universities. You are getting a quality education no matter where you study. All of our programs you can use back in Canada as well if you do wish to practice here in Canada once you're done. And of course, if you are applying to veterinary medicine here in North America, there are very limited places at Canadian universities. It is quite competitive. So it's really about keeping your options open, which is really, really important. Not only that, also the lifestyle that Australia offers is pretty incredible. I always like to describe it as Canada, but just very laid back. There's a lot of hands-on approach, a lot of student support that you have when you're in Australia, not to mention the climate, the beaches, the travel opportunities as well. And specifically for our vet students, a lot of different wildlife that you might not get the chance to work with if you were to stay in North America. So some really unique opportunities specifically for our veterinary students. So I'll move into the programs that we work with and all the nitty gritty about admission requirements here. So as I mentioned, we work with 3 different universities in Australia that offer veterinary medicine programs: the University of Melbourne, the University of Queensland, and the University of Sydney. So the University of Queensland, you'll notice there, is actually in Brisbane, and students studying veterinary medicine are in Gatton, which is about an hour outside of Brisbane. And then University of Sydney, students have the option to study in Sydney. So, and also in Camden, which is about 30 minutes outside of Sydney, and then also in Melbourne. So the first 2 years are in Melbourne in the city centre, and your years 3 and 4 are in Werribee, which again is about an hour outside, or about 30 minutes outside of Melbourne. And so we have 2 different options for degrees. So the first one is the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, or the DVM program, which are 4-year programs. And this is the more traditional pathway that you would see here in Canada, where you would complete an undergraduate degree and then do 4 years of a DVM program. And then we also have our bachelor's degrees level. So in Australia, you can actually go into professional programs like veterinary medicine straight from high school. So we also have 2 options for these programs that are additional year or 2, whether 5 or 6 years. And you can, like as I mentioned, you can apply to these programs straight from high school. And there is an option for you as well if you have a partially completed undergraduate or bachelor's degree program here. Both of these programs are fully AVMA accredited. So even though the title of the program might be a little bit different, at the end of that program, you are still fully qualified as a veterinarian, the exact same as you would be here if you graduated from North America. They're all AVMA accredited. And you can use one application to apply to all schools through OzTREKK, which is really important. Most of our students are applying to multiple programs. And our OzTREKK application is free as well. And as I mentioned, they are all AVMA accredited, which means that practicing in Canada is very easy. There's no additional bridging programs, no additional exams required after graduation. So I'm going to get started with the DVM entry requirements. So this is for our graduate entry programs, our 4-year programs, that you must have a completed bachelor's degree before you apply to these programs. So University of Melbourne, the DVM program, they are looking for a background in science as your previous study or your undergrad program. Competitive GPA, they're looking around a 77% or higher minimum to apply. They are looking mostly at your 3rd and 4th year courses as well. They're looking at those science courses specifically. They are weighted as well. So that means that your 4th year is weighted about 75 and your 3rd year is about 25. To put that into perspective, it means that your 4th year is very, very important to applying to the Melbourne DVM program. And not too many prerequisites are required either. So you're looking at cell bio or general bio and biochemistry. And they're looking for 1 semester, and they can be intro level subjects as well. And those additional requirements, so you'll notice that all of our programs do require a situational judgment test and a few unique ones through each program. So for the University of Melbourne, they are looking for a personal statement. And so this isn't necessarily, this is kind of very subjective. So you don't necessarily have to have any specific animal handling experience, but they are looking for you to demonstrate an interest, commitment to the field, a passion for veterinary medicine, passion for animals, and they're looking to how you portray that in a personal statement. And so they do rank as well. So your personal statement can add up certain points as well in order to kind of match with your GPA. And moving on to the Sydney DVM, there's no particular field of studies or undergraduate degree that they are looking for. However, there are a couple of prerequisite courses that you do need to meet, as you can see there. And looking a little bit higher in terms of your competitive GPA, which is cumulative average. So that means that all of your years of study are weighted equally. And they're looking around an 85% minimum or higher to be competitive. The University of Sydney also does require at least 28 days of animal handling experience, whether that be working in a veterinary office, working on a farm. Many students will work with therapy dogs, training dogs, all of those different sort of things. Any kind of relevant work experience is calculated, is included. And moving into our undergraduate degrees. So the University of Queensland, as I mentioned, you can apply to these programs right from high school. However, they do, you can apply if you have university studies, even partially completed university studies as well. So this is a 5-year program. And so if you have, if you're coming from high school, you're looking about an 88% or higher average in your top 5 to 6 grade 12 courses. And if you do have any university studies, they will take that as part of your GPA, around a 75% cumulative average, whether you've done a fully completed undergraduate degree or partially completed as well. And they do have some very similar prerequisites. So if you grade 12 or university, they're looking for those science-based subjects along with English as well, which is important. There is no animal handling requirements that you need to have in order to apply to the University of Queensland, but again, they do require a situational judgment test. And then University of Sydney, they also have an undergraduate entry program. However, if you do have any completed university studies, then you must apply to the graduate program. They must be fully completed. So if you have a partially completed university degree here, you're not eligible to apply to the Sydney program. And they're looking from high school around 80%, 86% average or higher to be competitive in your top 6 or all your grade 12 courses. And there's really no specific requirements. However, it is important as we have those additional years, those additional 1 or 2 years. So 5 years for the University of Queensland, and then this University of Sydney program is a 6-year program for undergraduate. So those are foundational study years. So they're really looking at your science courses. So if you do have any background in science-based courses, that will help you. It is recommended for the program. And they do require only a minimum of 5 days hands-on veterinary experience at some sort of veterinary establishment. And then again, that situational judgment test is going to be required as well. This is just a few photos of students working with some animals there. If you look at the picture on the left, that is Hannah, who I'll introduce at the end as well. She's one of our OzTREKK students. So these application deadlines, if you remember at the beginning, I also recommended that all of our students apply as early as possible. It is never too early to get in contact with us, starting asking questions or kind of starting that application process. Generally speaking, you want to start the application process in your final year of studies about a year in advance of when the program commences. So you'll see a few differences here between application deadlines. Some of our universities do work in rounds. And again, that is one of the main reasons that we do recommend that students apply early. Even though there are multiple rounds, the program can fill an earlier round. So we always suggest do not wait till the last minute. Apply early as you possibly can, so that our student advisors have enough time to compile your application, you have enough time to get all the required documents in, and also you have enough time to get everything sorted in order to move to Australia. And coming home with your veterinary degree, as I mentioned, all of the programs that we work with are AVMA accredited, which means that there is nothing additional that you have to do in order to practice back here in North America. So essentially, you're going to register with the NAV. This is specifically for Canada as well. And that's really just kind of getting your degree credentials, making sure that you've completed that process, you've passed, and you are a qualified veterinarian. And then you're going to be writing the NAVLE exam, same as you would be if you graduated from a North American university. And then once you've completed the NAVLE exam and you've passed that, you're going to apply for registration in whichever province that you wish to practice in. So it's really nice that they are all AVMA accredited and there's nothing additional, no bridging exam is required. The exact same process if you do wish to practice back in Canada once you've completed your degree in Australia. And I'll move into a little bit about financing. So generally speaking, most of our students are using a number of different ways to finance their studies. First being provincial loans. So you are able to use Canadian student loans. So whether it's OSAP, Alberta Student Aid, BC Student Aid, many of our students are using that, taking advantage of that. Of course, personal family and savings, family support, as I mentioned. And the bulk of the financing we're finding most students are gaining from a professional line of credit. And this is done through a Canadian bank. We definitely encourage our students to chat to all the banks, get an idea about how much you might be able to receive. Most of our students do need a co-signer as well. And our student advisors can help you with this right from the very beginning, put you in touch with the correct people at different banks across Canada to see and have a really good understanding about how you're going to fund your studies. And also with the visa that you are going over on, so our students are going over on a work-study visa, you are able to work part-time. So you can work up to 48 hours every 2 weeks, which is really, really important. Many of our students do work part-time, whether they're working in their field, something to do with veterinary medicine or animals, which is amazing. And some are working at a coffee shop or retail or anything like that. And the minimum wage, I believe, is almost up to, is very, very high in Australia. So it's over $20 an hour. You can get extra hours and extra pay on weekends as well. So it's pretty incredible. Many of our students are also using a part-time job to fund their education, to fund their travel expeditions as well, which is also a lot of fun. And as I mentioned, those student loans, each province does have a certain amount which they are willing to give. Ontario usually caps out around, OSAP is usually caps around $10,000. Alberta being the highest, about Alberta Student Aid, about $30,000. We do have a very strong Canadian dollar as well. So that's really important in order to kind of take a look at that. So you're saving about 10% in Canadian, roughly, depending on that exchange rate. So the next step, so as I mentioned, hopefully you have a very good understanding about OzTREKK, how we can help you and what program options you have. The next step is to get in contact with our student advisors, whether you want to send them an email, vet@oztrekk.com, whether you want to give a call, you can also book a video chat as well. Just get in contact with our student advisors, ask any questions that you have, and kind of get that process started. You also have the option to send your transcript to OzTREKK and have one of our student advisors essentially take a look at your transcript and let you know initially if you're eligible to apply and where you might be most competitive to apply. Once you've started that process, we can move forward with you from there, no matter where you are in the journey, whether you're just kind of getting started thinking about it or you're ready to apply now. We'll help you keep track and up to date with everything that you need to within the process. And I'm just doing a quick highlight here on one of our students. This is Hannah Popoff. She actually just graduated from the University of Melbourne, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program. You can follow her on Instagram at Hiking DVM. She has such amazing footage of her time on campus, off campus, her practicals, her clinicals, all of that stuff she really highlights. So you gives you a really good understanding about what life is like studying veterinary medicine in Australia and the opportunities that you could have. Also, feel free to check out any of our events. We have had a lot of our alumni and current students join our in-person events, webinars, to give you a really good understanding of what it's actually like. It's really important for our prospective students to be in touch with our current students and ask them all the questions about what it's like and where they are now, essentially, for our alumni as well. So thank you so much for joining. As I mentioned, I hope you have a really good understanding of this process, and I hope that you're really, really excited to start the journey and get in contact with OzTREKK and begin studying veterinary medicine in Australia soon. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.